Yo, what's up guys, how's everyone doing? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today we're going to be going over a little bit of analysis on Bitcoin as we usually do. We are still in this very strange range where a lot of people are losing money. It's been a range where I've said multiple times that I'm just not trading in because it is way too risky. And of course, as we know, a lot of the reason for this, I definitely think personally, is because we've had a lot of people flocking over to Bitmex and trying to trade over there. There is a link in the description if you want a discount on the fees there. And the issue that's created is that since there's been such a large influx of users to Bitmex within the past, say, 2 months, it has resulted in a lot of people who don't know how to trade on leverage actually taking a lot of very stupid risks. So again, I have a video on that. I'm going to be making a lot more videos on best practices for margin trading. It's very risky, but the profits you can make are 2x gains in a few hours, right? So it's huge profits, huge risk. And so this is a range where if you know how to game it, you're actually going to do very well. But if you're new to margin trading, it is extremely risky. Now, the way you make profits in a range like this is you basically, very, very simply, you want to set your long orders, your buy orders, for levels around about where my dotted crosshair is right now, 6,277 roughly. And then have preset sell orders for the top of this range, which is roughly 6,550. And so you've got about a $300 sort of gap there. And that is a $300 gap that you can actually trade. And when you're doing it on leverage, that difference in price may only be about 5%, 5%. But when you multiply that by leverage, say, I usually use 25 times leverage, 4 times 25 is actually a 100% gain. So literally by longing the bottom and then closing your position at the top, you would have a 2 times gain, right? That's how you make profits on margin. But the issue is many new traders don't know about that. All they know is shorting Bitcoin at a range like this. And so what happens is you end up getting a lot of liquidations. We get a few small short squeezes like the one where we went from a low of 6,220 and wicked extremely high. Now, obviously, we went over what happened here. Bitmex went down for maintenance, scheduled maintenance at that. So anyone trading at that time, really, I don't know what was going through your mind. It was scheduled maintenance and it resulted in a lot of liquidations because at the time, we're going into conspiracies here now, but what happened was Bitfinex actually, or rather Tether, my bad, printed USD, and they had close links with Bitfinex, and so that was actually used to buy a lot of Bitcoin on Bitfinex, and that resulted in the pump here, and then Bitmex went under a DDoS attack, distributed denial of service, and that resulted in the little dump down. So manipulation is awry in this kind of a range, and I believe we're seeing more of it right now. I will take off these indicators because it might be a little bit confusing. But what we're looking at right now is a bit of a steady climb upwards. And this is much better than the way we went up last time, because last time it was literally just all in one candle. But this time we've been doing it across a few candles, and we have volume backing it. There are a few scenarios here which I want to go over. I think it's a very important thing to go over for basic charting skills, but also, to tell you what could happen next. You see, when you're in a trading range like this, we had a decent amount of volume where we broke above this resistance level and started trading above sort of where a lot of people have their short orders. I know a lot of people who were sick with, they just got sick of standing on the sidelines throughout all of this time, so they started to short over here, and I told them, this is a very bad idea from where I'm seeing things. Of course, none of this is financial advice, but the only reason I'm avoiding this trading range is because I like to not lose money. It's a hobby of mine. So I didn't take up the shorting opportunities. I know many who did, and unfortunately, this pump was actually followed with a bit of volume. And since people are getting tired of not having gains, they start using ungodly leverage numbers. 25 in itself is pretty crazy. The only reason I use it is because I exercise extremely strict risk management, so it rarely ever goes wrong for me. But what we have seen with this pump is actually declining volume. Now, what we want to see is volume going up until the top of what we have right now, which is a bull flag. So we want to see bigger volume on the second candle and bigger potentially on the third candle. But what we're actually seeing is the inverse. We've seen volume just decline throughout this trend, and now volume is not a reliable indicator right now. Bitcoin is not respecting it, but on the whole, as basic charting skills, what we want to see is volume ascending as we move higher, and that's actually going to confirm the price movements. Right now, what we have is price action that hasn't been confirmed with volume, and that's actually reflected very clearly within the larger crypto space, $10.3 billion volume. Now, this volume level is usually the bottom for the crypto market. It is where I start to get very seriously concerned. Just yesterday we were around 11.2 billion, so still extremely low numbers. I mean, we were double this just a couple weeks ago. Very bad numbers that we're seeing right now. But what this is telling us is that as we've moved higher with lower volume, we've had the market cap rise on lower volume. This actually tells us that the bears still have control within this range. So if I go back to this chart here, we can ignore the volume for a little bit and just look at the basic pattern. And yes, I have said this is a bull flag. What we have is a measured move upwards. We'll ignore the volume because right now the volume is telling us we're actually bearish. But what we have with these basic candles, which as you know are the most important indicator, you guys notice I often just use a naked chart. I mean, it is oftentimes the best chart to use. You don't need to throw on a lot of indicators. What we have is a move up. We have a consolidation period. We've just been trading sideways. I mean, this is on the 4 hour, but I mean, I go over to the 1 hour and this is a very typical, very nice bull flag formation. This is telling us that we've moved up with measured moves up. I mean, we've had some pullbacks and then upward movement again. This is a very good sign. And then we're having a slightly longer period of consolidation right when we hit our resistance level. I mean, we topped out nearly at 6,800. Let's actually check out the OHLC. The OHLC is up here, open, high, low, close. So this means where the candle opens, the high of the candle, the low point of the candle, and where the candle closed. So if we hover over this, we can see that the high of the candle was 67.90, $10 below our very strong resistance area at 6,800, or rather, it's not very strong anymore. I actually think it's a fairly weak level. I'm going to go over why just in a minute. And what we have is potentially a bull flag formation. Now, there is a risk analyzing this trend very closely. If we zoom out to the 1 day, we're actually not seeing anything concrete. I mean, this is very clearly, potentially a rising wedge. And of course, what's most concerning about this is that we've started to move upwards, but volume is just not picking up. And so really what it's telling us is that the bulls are weak when pushing the prices up, and the bears are just waiting for better prices to end up selling and shorting the market once again. The volume, if we move this chart up, the volume still sides with all of these red sell-offs, with with the exception over here. I mean, one exception over here with a green volume candle, but this candle actually to me is extremely bearish. So yet again, I mean, you may as well count this one red. And the reason I'm saying this candle is bearish, if I can move this chart, is that again, if you basic candle analysis, let's take off all these lines. What we can see, we're paying attention to this candle here where my mouse is moving up and down. What we can see is that it actually wicked up very high. Now, wicks obviously mean the high point of the candle. So, of course, if we highlight this, we can see the OHLC is telling us a high of 6,636. The prices went up very high and then retraced hugely. We can see that they opened down at this level, 6,191, and it actually ended up closing, what, 20, 30... Oh, my bad, it's like $80 higher or something. It only closed $80 higher, whereas during that day, prices pushed much higher levels. And so what we are seeing is that even though this is a green volume bar, even though it is an upward movement candle, it's actually extremely misleading. And so the selling pressure still sides with the bears. We've got a massive sell-off candle here, a larger one here, and this one, like I just said, is actually a very bearish candle. You may as well consider it red. And then a potentially bullish candle, as we can see, we actually, or rather a bearish again, my bad, we wicked quite high and we actually ended up closing much lower. This was obviously on the day of the Bitmex and Bitfinex manipulation. So I'm painting a very bearish image. It's not going to make sense why I said 6,800 is weak. I want to touch on that now. I feel like since a lot of people in this market are placing a lot of importance on the 6,800 level, it is actually going to result in movements upward. And the reason I feel like that is we've had a lot of volatility going downwards. We've had a lot of sideways movement. and we are due for some corrective movement upwards. Now, I don't know how far that's going to go. I've said many times across these streams that I think 7,000 is a key level. We've got 11,600 up here and another $1,500 lower. We've got 10,000 and so on. You guys know I've said it many, many times. And down to $7,000, it is 1,500 lower than 8,500. And what this is telling us is, I think, since everyone expects 6,800 to be that key level, and obviously since there's been so many noobs flocking to Bitmex that still don't even know how to trade without leverage, this is actually telling me that there is, I think, quite likely going to be some movement above 6,800. Now, the volume doesn't confirm it. Nothing is confirming it. In fact, if we look at the rest of our indicators now, how long are we into this video? I don't know, but you take note of how maybe, I don't know, a 10-minute video so far, and I still haven't even looked at any indicators apart from volume. So this is how I operate. I'm all about that, naked chart analysis before I go into sort of more intricate things. And what the daily EMA ribbon is telling us, it's a huge factor for resistance. I mean, look at that beautiful wick right to the top of our EMA ribbon, and then a huge, huge rejection. It's an amazing indicator. What it is telling us is that we are actually encountering very strong resistance in this area right now. I mean, the same applies for the Ichimoku cloud. It is a little bit higher, which is actually why I think we could potentially range higher as well. The 4-hour Ichi, though, is actually telling us that we're in a fairly large amount of resistance. I mean, it is actually flipping around and becoming support as we are testing these levels, but the 4-hour Ichi cloud is actually an extremely reliable indicator, especially as resistance. If we look at it back when the last time we had a red Ichi cloud, we got nearly a rejection off this point, 2 rejections over here, a third, potentially fourth if you want to count that, and then a 5th almost rejection as well. So it's a very reliable indicator, and so we have a lot of forces for resistance in this area. And I mean, when we look at the shorts just very briefly again, I think it's just the icing on the cake, really, from where I'm seeing things, because we do still have a lot of shorts. They are pulling back, but as I've said, these pullbacks don't really matter. It still can very easily rise above all-time highs, and with such high numbers of shorts, with so many people betting on the market going down, I do think that just going above to $7,000 is definitely on the cards. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, that is being confirmed most of all with our bull flag on the 4 and 1 hour. This is, if we ignore all previous price action, we've started an uptrend, a short-term, mid-term uptrend. We now have a bull flag consolidation, and this consolidation is playing out like the previous ones. I mean, we had a bit of a setback here, and then up again, a setback, and then up again, and a larger setback now that we've encountered bigger resistance. So this actually makes a lot of sense. When we're testing these higher levels, we are going to have periods of sell-offs, but 6,600, it's a resistance level, of course. That is why we had a setback at this level, but it's not strong, and so that's why this only lasted 8 hours minimum, and 8 to 16 hours. 16 hours obviously being the maximum, highly unlikely we were in that range for that long, and then a slightly smaller period of consolidation as well at 6,700, which again is also a level of some resistance. But what we're now encountering at a level of much larger resistance is longer consolidation. I do still think that there is a lot of potential for us to go higher. Just talking to a lot of people on Telegram, on Twitter, I mean, seeing the sentiment, we've still got a lot of shorters in this market that don't fully understand how to apply leverage and how to trade on margin. This is actually the hot word right now. Binance had their fun back in 2017 and early 2018, but it is now very much Bitmex's time to shine. I mean, they just opened one of the most, or rather, if not, the most expensive office in the world in Hong Kong, and this was only a couple of days ago. So they are definitely expanding. They are seeing the potential here. I mean, in a bear market, in a savage market like this, Bitmex is at all-time highs. I mean, you don't have to look further than the actual volume traded on Bitmex. If we look at the perpetual swaps and zoom out to the 1 day, I mean, volume, market-wide did not increase this much. I mean, we look at the volume moving average, volume did not increase this much across the whole market, but for Bitmex, it did. And only for Bitmex. I mean, Bitfinex, Kraken, other exchanges, sure, they also saw a bit of a volume pump. Everyone's going to leverage trading exchanges, and of course, Bitmex is one of the leverage trading exchanges that isn't available in China and the US and maybe Saudi Arabia, a couple other countries. I might be wrong about China actually. But what we are seeing is that since we have so much indecision in this range, and add on to that, we have a lot of people that aren't accustomed to margin trading. You know, like I've been saying for many days, it hurts to say even weeks now, because we have been in this range 4 weeks. Let's actually calculate how long it has been, since we hit this range. We are at 17 days. We are pushing 2.5 weeks. Going on 3 weeks now, trading sideways for Bitcoin. I mean, since I started trading Bitcoin back in May 2017, I have never seen something like this. It is a very tough trading range for a lot of people. It's a savage market right now. It has been why I'm avoiding it. A lot of people losing a lot of money. I mean, I got a lot of messages from VIP members who mentioned that, of course, it's been a slow trading month because, it's been sideways movement. But what they've learned has meant that they didn't lose anything. And that's something in a market like this where you should be extremely proud if you can say the same thing, that you didn't lose any money. And above all, that you learned. I would have shared a screenshot with you today, but I forgot to pull it up. But the learning experiences from where I'm seeing things are above all what matters the most. I mean, you won't realize it right now. It's not immediately obvious. But as we all know, I mean, we're, I'm guessing, majority adults watching these streams. We understand the importance of learning, and it's an invaluable experience in something so dangerous like margin trading. If you are interested, go ahead and join Crypto Mafia Gold in the link in the description below, and then message me. You can just click on my name at the bottom of posts in gold. Click on my name there and message me there, and I'll get back to you. As for the rest of the markets, if we do look at the alts, we are seeing Bitcoin dominance level out and stay around the same level. Most of the market just breaking even. We've got 7% on VeChain, but we've got to bear in mind VeChain was hit very, very hard anyway. 15% on Nano. This is actually holding up really well. It's one of the only coins in this market right now that are showing signs of strength. Of course, Binance coin, I'm sure, also showing some strength. Yeah, I mean, holding up decently. It's doing much like the rest of the market, to be honest, but it hasn't dropped hugely compared to the rest of the market. Binance coin actually holding up really well, and Nano definitely one to keep an eye on. But on the whole, while we do have a little bit of green in the market, a lot of breaking even from 24 hours ago, 11% on Ontology, so 10% on ICX. Yeah, ICX is it's the one that got away. Even though we are seeing, sort of calm, almost dare I say, movement in the alt market, I still don't think it's time to consider them. I mean, I'm still not even looking at them. I haven't looked at an altcoin chart for in-depth analysis since months ago. I mean, it only, for me, takes one glance to look at them and tell you that it's still disgusting as an investor, and very much so as a trader. You can't margin trade a lot of these alts, only a few. And the few that you can margin trade, of course, they are doing extremely well if you short them. But of course, not everyone is open to something like that. Now, where do I see us going? Yes, I do think there is a high likelihood that we are going to break 6,800. Like I said, it's a level that everyone expects, and when that happens, it actually gets weaker. We've already tested it. We've tested it many times before, and since we are forming a bull flag, albeit on low volume, it doesn't matter, like I said, because Bitcoin has not been respecting volume anyway. I do think that there is a decent chance that we are going to break above 6,800, and I am eyeing levels like 7,000, potentially 7,300. Now, the other side of that coin, of course, it can go up and down. The other side is, of course, 6,800 is still resistance. You can throw this argument both sides. A lot of people are expecting it, and so they're just going to short it as soon as it gets to that level. I am not a fan of that kind of analysis, but I know that viewers here might be, and so I want to throw that out there. It is a very good possibility that since this is resistance, we're just forming some sort of a BART pattern, and we're just going to go right back down. Definitely a possibility. It's why I'm not trading in this range. The risk is extremely high. If you were to go long right now, $6,709, you're pretty, you're probably crazy, because you'd be longing, you'd be betting on an asset, on Bitcoin. You'd be betting that Bitcoin is going to go up right before a level of resistance. I mean, that's it doesn't get worse than that in terms of bad trading decisions. And I almost want to say the same thing for 7,000, because there's a very good chance we get stopped. We stop at 7,000. And then after that, we're looking at 7,050, 7,100, 200, 300. I do not, we could go as high as 300, 7,300, but I do not believe we're going to go any higher than that. That is where the volume starts to pick up. We'll throw on the VPVR indicator and show you what I mean by that. Over to the Coinbase chart, turn off these indicators. People always ask me for my settings, and please just screenshot this, and you can go back to my settings anytime you like for these charts. But if I do zoom out, what we are going to see is, okay, this is not going to work. Yeah, we have to look at price levels from about here. What we do see is that volume starts to pick up at 7,300. When we look at the VPVR indicator, it gives us such a clear view of the market. Perhaps if we zoom out, it's going to be a little bit clearer. Yeah, I think, actually, this is a lot better. The further we zoom out, the more accurate the VPVR indicator gets. The only issue is these bars start to become less precise, so we need precision with these bars. And what we do see is that when we enter trading periods with low volume, trading areas with low volume, it actually means that we can, if we enter from the bottom, we're almost certainly going to hit the top. This is right at 7,300. And of course, if we enter from the top, we're almost certainly going to go lower. So, you guys might remember our VIP traders actually shorted the market at this drop and made a 2 times gain, literally from 7,200 down to like 6,900. That's a $300 move and a 2 times gain. Again, all of those signals are in the VIP group. This is why I think that we cannot go higher than 7,300, because as we're moving up, the bulls are not showing increasing strength. The bulls are actually showing more weakness as we go higher. We probably don't even want to count this rejection of 6,800 because it was all manipulation. But if we do, that tells us that the bulls just got stopped out straight away. The bears took control as soon as price levels hit 6,800. And so if we do go higher, it's not going to be like that strength will come back. I do believe the FOMO element has been removed. There is no news in the market that could result in FOMO. Our ETF news from the SEC, the CBOE ETF approval or rejection news, or a delay, which I think is most likely, is still more than a month away. We have no catalyst in the market to make it start going higher, and so because of that, I don't believe that we're going to see FOMO action, and as we know, FOMO is the main driving force for this market. Now, I know there's going to be 1 or 2 people questioning me about this. The VPVR indicator is showing us that if we do break this range, it's going to be a straight run up to 7,300. So why am I eyeing levels like 7,000? Well, VPVR is great, but it's not perfect. And that is shown very clearly where we started consolidating right at this level here, which I was surprised to see. I did not expect consolidation here. This actually shows that even though there wasn't much volume here, we can start consolidating there. Since it is an area of consolidation, it is now an area of resistance. And since we obviously have weak power from the bulls, the bulls are weak, that makes me question how powerful they may be to push through this area of resistance. And then you tie in the fact that we've dropped by 1,500 at every lower high. I think that it would really fit into the pattern if we end up topping out $1,500 lower each time to 7,000. That is going to fake a lot of things out. A lot of people expecting 6,800. A lot of longs may be getting filled. That's why I said I still think it's not a good idea to go long once we get a clean break above 6,800. If we do, and like I said, the reason for that is we could get stopped very, very quickly, and it's just not worth the risk. One more thing I want to address in this video is this issue about impatience. Like I said, it's 2.5 weeks, going on 3 weeks now, where we've just been sideways. And so, yeah, I mean, this does result... I can't zoom into my chart now for some reason. This does result in a lot of impatience, a lot of people just getting trigger happy and trying to execute trades just for the sake of it. I will never understand it. I mean, you know, I've done it before, so I lied. I do understand it. But, you know, these mistakes are... I can't think of the words to use when, you know, talking about over trading. I mean, read a book on trading. Read a book. The book is called Market Wizards. Again, I've forgotten to link it in the description. Market Wizards by Jack Schwager. It's a very easy read. I mean, it's just a bunch of subheadings as questions interviewing very successful traders. And I mean, books for me have been a great way to learn about trading, and one of the main points in that book, you know, the bigger points are about risk management. So not, God forbid, not going all into positions. You know, 5%, 1%, 3% of your entire portfolio per trade, max. I mean, I'm seeing people go levels like 40%, 60%. I mean, it's crazy to put in that much money into one position, because if you screw up, I mean, that's a huge setback. I mean, it will work. Like I always say, gamblers do win, but they don't win in the long run. And we're talking about, you know, it doesn't matter if you make $1 million and then you lose it and you're down to 100K. Okay, that's great. $100,000 is still amazing, but it's not $1 million. And it's all about controlled movements upwards. And so that's why, I mean, portfolio management, putting in X amount per trade, and then also much more importantly than that, just, you know, why take the risk? Why risk your money? It is very hard to recover from losses. Now, I said I'm going to end this video many minutes ago, and I've you know, started rambling, but I've pretty much completed my analysis for today. There is still nothing huge going on in the market. Until we leave this range, there is little action to be taken. I want to see how high this can go, because like I said, I do think there is a good chance we're actually going to go above 6,800. I think it's going to be a little bit unexpected, but of course I won't be surprised if we get rejected and we start going lower from here. Really, you know, this is a case of we're either going to go up or down, and I'm just very happy to sit back and watch how this plays out. But with that, guys, it has been an absolute pleasure. Please make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, tick the bell, join the Telegram channel. But with that, I'm out. Peace.